You're listening to Legacy Lawyers, hosted by Michael Haslam and Nathan Croxford.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of the Legacy Lawyer podcast. I am Mike Haslam. I'm one of your hosts today, and with me is one of our great attorneys, Brian Edwards. What's up, Brian?
Not much. How are you?
Great. So it's Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween. If anybody's watching, you'll see my red sweater with the M&M on it. We decided, my wife and I, are M&Ms this year. So I got my red sweater on with it. It's great. My wife is the yellow M&M. So
She's the yellow M&M.
Yep. That's what we decided. It was pretty fun. The kids are not. It's just me and my wife. But
okay, you didn't do two other M&Ms? No.
No, they want to be their own things, so we let them do that this year.
Fun. Yeah. My kids are all pumped. They're excited to go trick or treat. So we're gonna do that. I'm a boring person. I am not dressing up for Halloween this year.
That's okay.
About once every 5 years, I'll.
That's still a good average for, I think, the average American adult. So well done.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I have no idea, but it sounds good. So
feel good about it.
Well done.
Well, we got a great topic today. It's I think Halloween appropriate because we're going to talk about how scary things can get, right? If you don't do a couple things to protect your LLC. So all of our listeners who have an LLC or thinking about getting an LLC, this is a great episode for you because actually things can get really, really scary if you don't follow these tips and there's a lawsuit against your company. And so we're going to go through the things you need to do after you get the LLC to make sure it actually protects you. If you fail to do these couple items, then it makes it really easy for a court to ignore your LLC and go after and allow the person suing to go after you personally.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about LLC in the first place. I think just to start off, the LLC separates your assets from you, really, so that if you get sued, they're not going after those assets in the LLC. Or if the LLC gets sued, they can't go after you personally. That's why we like LLCs in the first place. But you got to make sure the LLC works for you and is done correctly, set up correctly, which we'll go over on that today. But that's what we're going with today.
So we have a real-life example, a case from 2025 where the person did not follow these tips. Should we share kind of a little bit of those facts?
Yeah, I think we should do that first.
Okay. So this case comes out of New York, and there was a company that did construction, and there was a really bad construction accident where a couple people died, and then some wrongful death lawsuits followed, right? And those lawsuits are usually for millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, of course, the construction company got sued, and that was to be expected. But the lawyers representing the plaintiffs also sued the sister companies. So it's pretty common, especially if you're in the construction industry or you have any industry that has equipment, where you have one company that we call kind of the operating company. That's the one doing all the construction or the improvement or the work or the services. And then they have another company that's like their equipment company that will own all the equipment, and that company will lease the equipment to the operating company. And then you might have other companies too. You might have a company that's like, sometimes people spin up another company is like your payroll, and they hire all the employees, and then they lease the employees to their other companies. So, we have clients sometimes that will have 3, 4, 5, 6 LLCs or corporations. Do you see other structures very often, Brian, where you'll see more than kind of that equipment and operating company?
I see it in, a very common one with some of my clients is just in rentals. They have more than one rental, and, you can decide how many rentals you want to put into an LLC. You can own all of them in one, or you can separate it for each rental or put a few into some. So some clients where they have multiple rentals have multiple LLCs, so that each rental's in an LLC, or a few in this one, a few are in that one. So I see that one pretty common too, as a multiple LLC owner has. Not the
Yeah,
fact pattern that you just gave, but it's very common.
yeah, so they have multiple companies, and in that situation, um, they did multiple LCs because they don't want an accident at one rental property to put the other rental properties at risk, right?
Yep, yep, that's correct.
And so with this real life case, this construction accident happened, similar thing, right? They have a company that owns their equipment. One of the reasons, there's multiple reasons why they do it this way, but one of the reasons is if the operating company gets sued, then their equipment's not at risk, because some companies have, just millions and millions and millions of dollars in equipment.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, the court heard testimony. The article said, 87 witnesses, so they had a lot of witnesses. That was a long trial,
That's a long
and
count.
yeah, that was a lot. And the jury came back, and the trial lasted nearly a year,
Wow.
right? Because just to do testimony for 87 witnesses. So the trial lasted a year, 87 witnesses, and when the dust settled, the jury came back and said, we believe that not just the operating company is liable, we believe all of the sister companies were liable too. And then they also said the owner of the construction company was also personally liable. Now, any business owner, if you hear this outcome, and you're like, that's kind of scary, that's not
Yep.
good, like, that's the right response, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. Yep.
So,
And
what
if
do
you
you
don't mind,
think?
I mean,
You haven't read this article, Brian, right? Like, I'm just telling you about the facts right now. So, what do you think caused this outcome? Oh, unless you had another thought.
oh no, I think you're fine. I mean, I have not read the article. Just listening to it, if it's a company with sister companies, like how separated were those companies really? For one thing, and how separated were they from the business owner? Did he did he make it completely separate from himself or not? Like, was he? That's what it sounds like. That's kind of how you get to this outcome. Is you don't separate your business from you, and that's probably what happened. That's probably how they got here. I was just gonna say the very legal term that I hear thrown around with this is piercing the corporate veil.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what they're trying to go here. They're piercing the corporate veil to get to the owner behind it, so they can go after that owner as well. And that just
And
sounds like that's exactly what happened here.
yeah, you're exactly right. Like, he treated all the businesses like one, not like 100%, but there was enough evidence, right? Like,
Yeah,
same employees in the equipment leasing company that's in the construction company. I think they ran the payroll all through the same account. I think only really one company paid all the employees. They had other bad facts where there wasn't set agreements between the companies, right? Like, the equipment company didn't have an actual set lease agreement with the operating company. They would just fill in the numbers later on based on whatever was going to help them tax wise.
yeah,
And so once you go through all of these, like, facts of how they were running their business, it really was similar to one company that was just taking off a hat, putting on another one, and instead of treating them like they're separate.
right, right. And that's what I see. I mean, that you read it, and just as an attorney, you're just like cringing inside, like, oh, you could have done some of these simple things to help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I think is where we're going with this next. So,
Yeah, and this is a New York case. New York's one of the most plaintiff friendly states in the United States. So, um, the exact same facts here might have been fine in another state, but you don't want to leave it up to chance. You want to
right.
just do all the little things so you get the actual protection. So, last thing though, and then we'll go through the list of what they should have done. Um, the 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 corporation itself that got sued, was definitely operating as a business. Like, it checked the box of a business, right? It's just they were kind of like one big company instead of 3 or 4 little companies. And so the reason they pulled in the owner personally here was not because they pierced the corporate veil in the normal sense of, oh, you weren't running it like a business, we should be able to go after the owner. They were able to get to the owner because of his actual participation in the business. So a lot of people misunderstand this. And actually, I just was in a meeting with a client last week, and one of their children were in the meeting. So the child wasn't my client, and he made a comment about like asset protection and why he has an LLC, and his comment was not correct. I didn't correct him because it was off tangent and he's not my client, and but he's like, he has this conception because he has an LLC, he's the only employee in the business, he's the only one who works in the business, anything he does won't come back to him personally. Why is that not the case? Brian, you want to help us out on that one?
I mean, even if somebody is, in a company, I mean, an owner or manager or whatever, that person, if this is how I see it, if they can be found personally liable, even though they're in the company, they can still be sued in this type of situation. So, yes, people sue companies, and you're suing the company, but if somebody personally inside the company is doing
the bad actor,
yeah, then that person can be personally liable too.
So I think doctors are a really good example of this, right? Like, yeah, the hospital gets sued if a doctor commits malpractice, but the doctor's always named as well, personally. And that's why they keep such large insurance policies, because they can't hide behind, like, if they're the one who messed up, they were the one who was negligent, they can still be named. And so their insurance policy doesn't just cover the company, the corporation, it covers them personally too. And that's the same for every business. So in this construction accident, the jury found that the owner like personally contributed to the events that happened to the deaths, and so because of that, he was named in the claim. So everyone out there, who's working in your business, like, this is a whole different episode. We got a lot of great podcasts on it. Like, you have to have an asset protection strategy for your business, but you have to have an asset protection strategy for your personal assets that's totally separate, because unless you're not involved in the business day to day at all, it's easy for you to get pulled into the claim.
Makes sense.
Are we ready to go through our list of things to do so you don't end up like
them, or like this corporation, right? Or the owner, right? So, yeah, let's go through our list. If you don't mind, I'm going to start with what I think is the biggest one on here. I mean, we wrote down 1 through 5. I'm going to start with number 3. It's not that these are in particular order. It's just, I feel like this is a huge one. The commingling of assets. When you have a business, and this is what I tell clients all the time, here's the thing, when you take your personal money, your personal assets to pay for the business, or the business assets are coming straight to you or whatever, it's hard to see that as a separate entity. And when you're in a court situation, like you're getting sued for something like that, the judge is easily going to take a look at that, right, as evidence, and say, whoa, where is the separation of a business? It doesn't even sound like there's a business here, because you're just taking your money to fund this, and that money is funding you, and vice versa, and everything like that. So the very first, thing on my list is what I think is the biggest important, and maybe it's kind of difficult to do, but it takes a couple steps. It's nothing terrible, though, is separate the business money from your personal money. Business money is business money, and you can give yourself the ownership withdrawals or dividends or whatever you want to call it, right? And that's fine, but money you're reinvesting into the business should stay in the business. And like in a rental situation, if somebody is paying rent, right, it's good that that's going to a bank account that's owned by said business, by the LLC. Because then you can show that that is a complete separate asset from yours, and if you get in that situation, you can show like, look, they're working with the LLC over here, when my stuff is over here.
So, Brian, all our listeners who own an LLC just thought, "Oh crap! I used my personal credit card to buy some of those business items, or I grabbed the wrong credit card that one time." So, is like all hope lost for them, or is it really like you have to be perfect on that?
No, I don't think so. I think one off here and there sometimes happens, and people make mistakes, and in the court, like, you may just have to explain those things, like if you get in that situation. But I think generally speaking, as long as you can show that I'm doing my best to keep the assets separate. Judge and jury may think differently, but I think you can show pretty well that you're doing your best to keep it separate, and that's your intent behind it as well.
Yeah, most cases follow that logic. Like when you're looking at piercing a corporate veil, it's not 100% compliance requirement, and there's not even like a percentage threshold. It's always fact intensive. So the occasional slip up isn't going to sink you, but if every month you're doing most of your purchases on a personal credit card and having your business reimburse you, that's not going to look good in the court's eyes if you're trying to hide behind your business for liability purposes. So, okay, I'll give the next one. Legit agreements. So this is a really important thing. Like that construction company, they didn't have like good paperwork on who was leasing equipment and for what. If you're a business owner and you rent from yourself, not having a good lease with the right lease amount is a really bad idea. And just following the agreement as close as you can. So one tip we always give is like do auto renewal provisions in all your agreements, because you're not going to remember to re-sign that lease with yourself next year, and you signed a 1-year lease, and so you were compliant for 1 year, but then you weren't compliant. So just get the right contracts, get them in place. There's things you can do to make it easy on yourself, but try to eliminate verbal agreements between your businesses.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if this is a plug or not, but we're attorneys and we draft those things. We're happy to do it. There's something that we can do, and it's good to get legalized on those if that's the route you want to take with that, for sure. So, but I agree with those. So, I'll take the next one. This one's pretty simple. I mean, with the LLCs or businesses, they've had to be filed with the state, or at least LLCs are, and just renewing them. Make sure you stay up to date on those renewals, those yearly renewals. Here in the state of Utah, they, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but they send out, something in the mail and says, hey, it's time to renew. And that is your reminder to go into the system and do it. And it doesn't take that long, and it doesn't cost a lot of money either to renew. But it's something that you want to stay on top of. Just make sure that you are renewing, that your business stays active. We don't want it to dissolve on you, and or to have the state come in and dissolve it on your behalf because it has been renewed for so long or whatever. So just staying on top of it, keeping it an active business registered with the state.
Yeah, there's something called an administrative dissolution. You could have dissolved your company and not even known it just because you didn't renew. So do it. Okay, number 4, an operating agreement. So you should definitely have an operating agreement. This is basically how your company is run. It says who the manager or the members are. So even if you're the only owner, it lists you as the manager, you as the member, and it just clarifies, how your entity's taxed, how decisions are made in your company. And it's just one other piece of evidence to show you're serious, you're a real business.
Yeah, that's especially true for people who are single member entities. They may think, not for me, not needed, but even then, it's good to sign it with yourself. Great. Mm-hmm. We love it. So, yeah, for sure. So, another one, just going right off of that, is when you are acting are signing documents for the business, instead of signing as yourself and just your name, it's good to sign off, and it's what we recommend, is sign off as your position in the company. So for me, Brian Edwards, I can say Brian Edwards, manager of such and such LLC, or Brian Edwards, member of such and such LLC. That just gives you one more evidence to show in court that says, look, they're dealing with you as a member of the business and not you personally, which is what we're trying to show, is no, this is the business that's there, and you're just working on behalf of the business in that position, signing off on agreements.
Yeah, like some contracts blocks, when you go to sign, you'll see they listed your business already, they listed your title, and it's a little easier just to sign your name, right? Because it's really clear. But a lot of times it's just a blank signature line, and that doesn't. And when you sign your name, that's too vague. So, yep, that's perfect. That's definitely what you need to do. Is I'm the manager of blank LLC, and then everyone knows they have a contract with your company, not you.
That's right.
So those are awesome 5 tips. Any last words of wisdom before we wrap up this episode?
Here's a 6th one for you that we talked about right before this. Just this idea of when you have more than one, and this is what came up in the court case. When you have more than one business, more than one LLC, treat them as separate LLCs, separate bank accounts, separate agreements. I mean, we kind of already talked about this a little bit, but just this idea of they're not one. They are, this business handles this business handles this handles this, and just make sure that you keep those separate. I know that's going to go a long ways, especially on this asset protection side and risk management. Just keeping them separate. That's it. I mean, hopefully these aren't ideas that are too hard or too difficult to try to manage. The hardest may be going to set up a new bank account if you don't have one for your business or something like that. Mm-hmm. But even then, that's not terribly difficult. It's just a matter of let's separate you from the business and keep
separate
it that way.
Books.
Yeah,
all of it.
So.
Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this episode. We hope it helped you. And just as a reminder, Voyant Legal, we love helping families and businesses protect what matters most to them. So reach out if you need any help at all. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Legacy Lawyers with Michael Haslam and Nathan Croxford. We give you the juicy detail of cases that our law firm has dealt with. We take out the lawyer talk and legalese and show you what options some of our clients had to choose from to fix their situation. The effects of not doing planning can be devastating. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook and Instagram at Voyant Legal. Call us at 801-951-0500 or send us an email at team@voyantlegal.com. And for commonly asked questions, hit voyantlegal.com/resources. We'll see you next time.